Saw dudes, back when I first started making videos, I made a build covering the pre-buff Severance Enclosure, and it did very well. Severance Enclosure's buff made it more fun to use and even more effective, so I wanted to remake an old favorite of mine. This build will make you a WWE champion with all the finishers you'll be dishing out. Combined with Woven Mail, Banner of War, and Proximity Ward, you'll be near unkillable while chaining finishers back to back. If you're looking for a stupid build to get some laughs, try this one out. Let's get started. The game loop of the build is just as goofy as the first iteration. If you need a refresher, shoot things until you see a finisher icon. If you see a normie with the finisher icon over its head, finish it. You will be doing this the entire mission. Keep in mind that sword and melee kills will proc Banner of War too, not just finishers, so use them when finishing is unsafe to pull off. For big boys, you'll want to use Frenzied Blade on them to reduce their outgoing damage before mag dumping them. When you can, use finishers since you will get a massive overshield while in the animation due to Proximity Ward. Rinse and repeat. Blade Fury is our boss CPS and champion killing tool. While you can use it to room clear, you are much better off using it to single out priority targets. Use the heavy attack before hitting enemies with the light attack to deal more damage. The barricade is entirely up to preference, but I like to use Rally Barricade for the shorter cooldown and various weapon bonuses. Towering Barricade is amazing as well and provides much more cover if safety is a concern. Frenzied Blade is important for severing enemies and allows us to spawn tangles by applying a Strand debuff to enemies. Kills with this ability will proc Severance Enclosure's explosions, so using it on adds is viable. The grenade is up to you, but I highly suggest trying Grapple. Grapple can be used to reposition or as a melee attack, which will work with Severance Enclosure. Since it unravels enemies on hit, it can spawn tangles and provide extra AoE coverage. Chakra Grenade is a safer option and locks down enemies for an easier time. For the aspects, I chose to go with Banner of War and Into the Fray. Banner of War sends out healing pulses periodically after scoring a melee, sword, glaive, or finisher kill, with the frequency increasing with the number of kills achieved after activation. It also buffs melee, glaive, and sword damage. Banner of War will provide us with large amounts of healing while finishing enemies. Into the Fray causes destroyed tangles to release 3 pulses that apply Woven Mail and heal allies for 10 HP each. The same effect can be achieved by casting our super. While Woven Mail is active, our melee regeneration rate is increased by 400%. The fragments for this build are Thread of Evolution, Finality, Generation, and Rebirth. Evolution causes Threadlings to travel about 30% faster and further and make them deal 33% more damage. Finality causes finishers to spawn Threadlings with the amount scaling with the combatant type. Generation grants grenade ability energy for each damage instance dealt to enemies. Finally, Rebirth causes Strand weapon kills to spawn Threadlings based on an internal counter system. Now let's get to the John Cena attire. For the helmet, I used Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Heavy Ammo Finder. For the chunky arms, I went with Grenade Kickstart, Heavy Handed, and Focusing Strike. With Severance Enclosure, I equipped Melee Damage Resistance and 2 Variable Resistance mods. On the Tree Trunk boots, I chose to go with Recuperation, Innervation, and Absolution. And on the mark was Proximity Ward, Reaper, and Absolution. When it comes to the stat spread, max out Resilience first since it will be required for this build's game loop. With a high enough Resilience value, pulling off finishers won't be too difficult. You would be bursted down before starting the animation otherwise. The only other stat you really need is Discipline, which will allow us to spam Grapple or Shackle Grenade. Strength is nice to have, but not entirely necessary. We have Into the Fray to reduce our cooldowns already. If you like the build so far, consider subscribing. It'll help me out a lot. Let's move on to the weapon loadout section. We have 2 today, but there's a lot of flexibility with both, so you can augment them as needed. Weapon loadout 1 uses the Navigator, Posterity, and Cataphract GL3. The Navigator is primarily used to grant us Woven Mail and provide support to teammates. Upon scoring 8 hits on an ally, they restore 60 HP, begin health regeneration, and are granted Woven Mail. If shields are healed, then shields will recharge. If they are in critical health, they will only heal base health. We are granted Woven Mail as well, and will be refunded 5 ammo. When we hit an enemy with 20 shots, we apply Sever to them, and also get Woven Mail. Having Woven Mail up is integral for survivability and increasing our melee uptime. Into the Fray increases our melee regen rate by 400% when Woven Mail is active, cutting down our charge time to 15 seconds from 60 seconds at base. If you always have at least 1 charge of your melee ability, the recharge time is even faster. The catalyst for the Navigator allows holding the reload button to switch the gun to Grapple Tangle mode. The Grapple Tangle mode shoots a Grapple Tangle up to 23 meters away at the cost of 1 ammo. This is perfect for spamming Grapple constantly and not having to consume a charge. This procs Severance Enclosure's explosions a ton and creates tangles because of the unraveling effect. Just keep using the Grapple Tangle as a pivot point and let your abilities do the rest. Posterity is perfect for light, Ankler, and yellow bar killing. The role I use is Corkscrew Rifling, Tactical Mag, Full Shot, and Frenzy. Full Shot is great for taking down multiple weak enemies and can stun overload champions. Another use case is applying Jolt to bosses to deal additional damage for free. Frenzy increases damage by 15% and maxes out handling and reload speed, which is perfect when used with Full Shot. The combination of a utility perk and damage perk makes the gun very fun and effective. However, I know many of you have a special gun that you turn to and want to use in this slot. If you have one, go ahead and use it. Some other options include Age-Old Bond, the Ikelos SMG, Trustee, and Callus Mini Tool. Cataphract GL3 is the most glazed on grenade launcher and for a good reason. I could get lost in the sauce talking about it, but I'll keep it simple. Grenade launchers pair well with this build because they are capable of boss DPS and ad clear. Threat of Rebirth causes Strand kills to spawn Threadlings, which will happen much more due to the multi-kill nature of the gun. These Threadlings will deal additional damage because of Threat Evolution and bring enemies down to the finisher threshold. All the while, the gun will be putting out damage, creating orbs, and allowing us to finish enemies, and that makes me feel tingly. The role I use is Quick Launch, Spike Grenades, Field Prep, and Bait and Switch. Just a small note, Bait and Switch is usually the best damage perk, so if you find it on other heavy weapons, consider keeping it. Weapon Loadout 2 uses Final Warning, Quicksilver Storm, or Wishkeeper in the kinetic slot. Without Remorse takes up the energy slot, and Carax's Distress takes up the heavy slot. Let's go over the 3 kinetic slot options. I wanted to talk about all 3 because they have different attributes that will influence your choice. If you already know which one you want to use, consider skipping around to get to the other weapons faster. Final Warning has the lowest effective range of the bunch, but it makes up for that in raw damage. While holding down the trigger, enemies within 24 meters are marked over half a second. Fully charged burst hits apply Unravel to marked targets. Hip-fired shots track marked targets for easy ad clear and mindless gameplay, a hallmark of Titan builds. Aim shots fire hit-scan projectiles that deal 100% increased precision damage. The variety of playstyles you can adopt with this little gun is amazing and really allows you to play the way you want. On top of doing great sustained and burst DPS, the unraveling effect allows us to spawn tangles. With some setup, it can melt champions and clear crowds. Quicksilver Storm takes care of our close to mid-range engagements. Hitting 10 shots on enemies sends a tracking rocket their way, which replaces a bullet that would otherwise be shot. These rockets deal pretty decent damage and have a small AoE damage radius. Each hit with a tracking rocket loads a grenade charge up to a max of 3. Holding reload switches the gun to the grenade launcher mode, which fires grenades that deal heavy damage in a 4-meter radius, which do not deal self-damage. The catalyst converts the damage type to Strand and causes grenade launcher mode kills to create a tangle. If you want a jack of all trades that doesn't slouch in the damage department, you cannot go wrong with this gun. Wishkeeper is the newest exotic from this season's exotic mission. It charges up suspending trap arrows on precision hits and kills and gets reduced draw time and increased damage on suspended enemies. From a pure utility standpoint, this bow is good in its current iteration. However, it does feel clunky at the moment due to the craftable perks being time gated. I have already seen many comments stating that the bow is outclassed by other options, but I still feel that it's viable and if you play to its needs, it can work really well. The best roll to craft once all perks are unlocked is Elastic String, Compact Arrow Shaft, Polymer Grip, and Hatchling Refit. Without Remorse is our Street Sweeper and melee buffing option. The role I used was Small Bore, Assault Mag, Field Prep, and 1-2 Punch. Field Prep acts as a reserves mod and reload steroid and helps us have rounds in the mag 24/7. 1-2 Punch buffs the damage of our Frenzied Blade by 100%, making it a legitimate threat to tougher units. This will make Banner of War activations easier and give us another tool to activate Severance Enclosure's perk. Carax's Distress fits this weapon loadout due to its more aggressive nature. The role I used for this iteration of the build was Quick Launch, Spike Grenades, Danger Zone, and Surrounded. Carax's Distress isn't ideal for boss DPS, so I put all of my effort into making it an ad-clear monster in close to mid-range. Danger Zone increases the blast radius of grenades when surrounded and reduces self-damage by 40%, making it perfect for close quarters combat. Surrounded provides a hefty 40% damage buff, which will put anything in the dirt, assuming you land direct hits for the maximum damage value. I hope you guys enjoyed the updated Severance Enclosure build. I always thought that this exotic needed a small push in the right direction to succeed, and I'm glad that I can bring this build back to life. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and happy farming.